Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And we have made it to the end of the warped mind of Stanley Kubrick, and it's time to have a party because I'm joined by Frank, Vinnie, and Aaron from SiftPop to talk about Stanley Kubrick's erotic thriller, Eyes Wide Shut. But for those who've seen the show before, we have our multiple segments. But first off, we're going to be talking about our coming attractions for the week of this September 10th. So I really want to start with Frank because Frank has a real winner here.
Netflix has a lovely animated movie coming out called Fire Drake, the Silver Dragon movie. It stars Felicity Jones, Patrick Stewart. I'm totally just not reading this because I haven't heard this movie before in my life.
Wait a minute. This actually has like famous people in it?
Me too. This website doesn't even have a running time listed, but hey, September 10th, Netflix.
You said this is called Silver Drake?
The Silver Dragon movie. Okay. But the poster just says Dragon Rider, so hope I'm not on the wrong website.
Dragon. Oh, man.
Going over the coming attractions before we all picked the same one, so I had to do some quick Googling to be different.
Like, I looked this up on IMDb, and it's a real movie. Freddie Highmore and Felicity Jones and Patrick Stewart. So there's real people in this movie. I know I'm going to be sitting there waiting for this to drop on Netflix. So there you go. So starting off with a fun one, but the rest of us are all on the same page in terms of we're all excited about the card counter. Now, quick, the main wide releases coming out on the 10th, we have Malignant, so another James Wan horror film that supposedly maybe doesn't have anything to do with the Conjuring universe, but like I'm 100% sure it's probably going to wind up being in it. And also Queen Pins. But Vinny, why are you most excited about the card counter?
Well, Paul Schrader's last movie, First Reformed, I saw it twice in theaters. I loved it so much. It wasn't just my favorite of 2018, but it was one of my top 10 favorites of the decade. So ever since I saw it, I was like, when is Paul Schrader's next movie? Once I heard it was going to be the car counter, and I read like the brief plot synopsis of it, I was like, you know what? I'm on board. I'm in no way interested in like card games or anything, but it's being written and directed by Paul Schrader. So I'm excited for it. The cast looks amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Awesome. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, unlike Vince, I do really like poker. I do really like card stuff. I don't understand card counting at all. I just like playing it. But like, I don't think there's a ton of good poker movies. I mean, you got Rounders, which is great. But like probably the most popular one is like 21, and that's a piece of garbage. So there's the Little Bits and like The Hangover, which, you know, is a movie that really hasn't aged well. But I mean, Paul Schrader's a big plus having there. But I think Oscar Isaac is on his A game. That almost pulls me in a little bit more. Although, you know, even Oscar Isaac makes bad movies. So it definitely helps knowing we have a director and writer that is competent. And yeah, I mean, First Reformed is a huge plus for me as well. I really love that one. And he's done, you know, wrote Taxi Driver and Last Temptation and some of like Scorsese's most popular stuff. So like, dude's competent. And I don't know that I'm like over the moon about this, but this for sure is the one to be most excited about this week.
You sure you're not really super excited about Malignant there, Aaron?
Look, if I was a horror fan, probably. But I'm just not.
I know, and that's why I said that.
So I'm just not interested. But like people that like horror movies, people that like The Conjuring, yeah, I mean, maybe this is your one to look forward to most.
Malignant was a close one for me personally because I am a big fan of James Wan's horror films. But I think what pushed the card counter over the edge was I love Oscar Isaac, and when he is given good material to work with, I think he's one of the best actors out there. I love Ex Machina, Most Violent Year, and it makes me really happy to see him doing something like this. I'm interested to see what Tiffany Haddish does with this movie. And basically, if Willem Dafoe's in something, that automatically gets my attention. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, First Reformed was something else and was a really impressive film. And I think this seems to have a lot of things going for it. And so honestly, I'm really hoping that this one really hits. And I have a contact at Focus Features. Unfortunately, I'm like, well, especially now, I was about to say, I'm like, not really into going into the city at the moment with a lot of people like that. Also, not really looking forward to like riding a kayak through Philadelphia to go see this screener next week after all the crazy weather that we've had up here. Tornadoes, hurricanes, all kinds of fun stuff. But I definitely think this is going to be a big one, and literally just watched Queen Pins tonight because I had a screener for it. I thought it was pretty fun. It's a silly movie. It's not something to take too seriously, but maybe something to check out that weekend. But those are our coming attractions, but that's not what you all came here for. You wanted to come and see all of us sit here and talk about why Eyes Wide Shut is or is not a Christmas movie. So, alrighty, Frank, is this a Christmas movie?
In fact, I watch it every year with my family.
That is a great Christmas family tradition right there. How about you, Vinny? Is this a Christmas movie?
I actually take back my statement from before when I said like 90% of the shots have Christmas lights in them because now I'm thinking like the scene in the sex mansion is like 25 minutes long, and I don't think there's a Christmas and I don't think there's a Christmas decoration to be had in that setting. So
to be fair, even if there were,
I wouldn't notice it. Yeah.
So I don't know. Since there's that prolonged sequence of no decorations, I'm now saying it's not a Christmas movie.
Okay, Vinny. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, look, if we're gonna talk about it as a Christmas movie or not, we have to define like what makes a Christmas movie. And so, like for me, I think Die Hard is a Christmas movie, but not just because it takes place on Christmas Day, not just because it has Christmas decorations, all that, but it does have the message of Christmas. It does have reconciliation with the family, and it has like a lot of other themes that we typically see that we associate with Christmas. But to me, the primary thing is the whole plot of Die Hard. It necessarily involves Christmas because there's low security and all of the high-ranking staff members are going to be at Nakatomi Plaza. So yes, absolutely, Die Hard is a Christmas movie because it's essential to the plot. Nothing about the time of year is essential to Eyes Wide Shut. Nothing about the city. Like really, there's nothing essential to this story except for who's in it and what's going on.
It's interesting. Oh, go ahead, Frank.
I think it's very much a Christmas movie because it takes place at the holidays and it's all about coming together.
Oh. Like I'm so glad I wasn't drinking coffee at the moment because that would have been a massive spit take for me.
My point was going to be Aaron brought up reconciliation, and they totally do at the end of the film. But I like Frank's answer better.
You know what? I think we should stop the recording right now because nothing's gonna come close to what Frank
That's
just said.
Well, but
We're
like,
not.
if we're talking just reconciliation as a theme, then like, look, then there's so many movies that we could count as a Christmas movie. Then at that point,
Well,
like reconciliation is just one of.
I was gonna bring that more up facetiously, but after
Yeah.
what Frank said,
Right. Yeah. I'm just.
yeah.
Frank,
Well, there we go. That's the show. Y'all should go watch Eyes Wide Shut. So besides the fact that talking about is this a Christmas movie or not, let's get some everybody's basic thoughts on the film as a whole. So Frank, what are your general thoughts about the film?
I think we need to kind of address exactly what it's about because the movie is kind of old. I'm not sure if I want to speed on exactly what it is, but the way I sum it up is it's 2.5 hours of just Tom Cruise wanting to get laid. And I love this movie. I always have and I always will because it's Stanley's best movie. Only because, like I said, it's 2.5 hours of just setup for one punchline, and then it cuts to credits, and I love that. He did a comedy for one joke, and I love it.
I never thought about the film in that way, but if you really do think about it, it all does lead up to that very last line that Nicole Kidman says before the credits roll. So, how about you, Vinny? What are your thoughts about the film?
Well, you know what? There are certain things I do want to talk about, but you know, like that. Therefore, when we get further into the discussion, but for the most part, I really liked the deliberate pace of the movie. It really did do its job with absorbing you into this world and the whole dynamic and lifestyle of Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's characters. I can't remember their names at the moment, but it really did provide you with a detailed setup with the whole beginning sequence at the Christmas party, and just the way it takes off from there is, you know, like it becomes a mix of a mystery, a thriller, a romantic drama. It just, I really think Stanley Kubrick pulled it off really well, and I have more to talk about as we go forward.
So, Aaron, this was your first time watching this?
Yeah.
And you just got done watching it. So, what are your thoughts?
Look, I asked to be on this one because this is a movie that I know is widely regarded, much like Kubrick's filmography, and it's one that I just hadn't got around to yet. And so I was like, well, this is an excuse for me to watch a movie. And we had a family friend coming over to spend the weekend with my wife, and she's like, "Oh, Aaron's watching a weird movie with tits upstairs." So like, it just don't be surprised if any given. Anyway, that was just a fun story. I think this is I'm conflicted. I think I really love this movie, but I don't quite understand what the meaning of it is. I don't quite understand what this movie is going for. But I think, like, on a technical level, on a story level, on a character level, I think this is a remarkable achievement. Like I said, I just don't know like why this movie exists, and that's one of the things I'm really hoping that we can, I can learn from you guys who have seen this more than once, more than today, to kind of help me. But I think, like, on a technical level, it's hard to deny that there's brilliance here, but it's also hard to deny that probably 2001 is Kubrick's best technical achievement. But my favorite Kubrick is A Clockwork Orange. I think this is number 2. So.
It's interesting because, like, I'm a huge fan of Stanley Kubrick, and I've watched now I've watched all of his films over the past like 14 weeks. But like, I've seen most of them a decent amount of times.
Yeah.
And so, Vinny, you'll appreciate this. I showed this to Matt. Matt hates this movie so much. And
What was
Can hate it.
when you wait? So when you watched it for this episode, and you showed it to Matt, like that, like so that was his first time seeing. That was his first time seeing it.
Well, no, I showed this to Matt like a good 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
No, like this is probably my 4th or 5th time watching this movie, probably. I rewatched it this week, and like I love a lot of Kubrick's films. This doesn't get as high for me as a decent amount of them, but from a technical standpoint, this is an unbelievably beautifully shot film.
Mhm.
And there's something, so I brought this up with both Foster when talking about Full Metal Jacket, talking about Clockwork Orange. There's just something about the music that Kubrick picked for his films, and there's strange chants going on during that whole orgy mansion sequence. It just, there's something that he's able to do that makes you feel in a completely different world. And probably the best example is The Shining, because like the music in The Shining is completely unnerving. And this film is so incredibly well shot. It's crazy to think that this film of all films took him a whole year of principal photography, because I'm pretty sure he just went full-blown Kubrick on everything.
Yeah. Because like wasn't the shoot like 400 something days?
Crazy. And like, no wonder Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman got a divorce. So obviously it wasn't the Scientology's problem.
Look, let's not discount that either.
In the
It was
Scientology.
100% shooting eyes wide shut.
But I you know, and kind of to kick off of that, you know, too, like Kubrick deliberately, like I was reading the trivia, like kind of while watching this movie, and some of the dialogue heavy scenes, and like Kubrick deliberately kept Nicole Kidman's character Alice, she kept Nicole Kidman in the dark about things that Bill was doing, and sort of vice versa. So like the actors were like incredibly frustrated because Kubrick was telling them, like, you cannot rehearse together. You can't, like, I don't need you, like, you can't help fill in character moments. So like, yeah, I mean, like, honestly, Eyes Wide Shut probably is a big contribution. Like maybe their biggest fight they've ever had, you know?
Well, it's interesting because like Kubrick was such an amazing director, but boy was he an asshole. Like
Yeah.
he did some terrible things to people.
Well, especially the whole story with him. I mean, we won't go into it, but just the whole thing with him and Shelley Duvall for The Shining.
Hey,
Right,
if
and
I
like-
had Jack Nicholson yelling at me for 180 takes, I would probably.
Well, and it's one of those things that, like, gosh, I'm glad that this type of director doesn't exist anymore. Like, I love, and admire and respect in their work Hitchcock and Kubrick, but like the closest thing we get at this point is probably who's the guy that does all those Mark Wahlberg movies? Like
Peter Berg.
Yeah, Peter Berg. Like he's maybe the closest we get to like that, like incessant, insanely like torturous direct, and he's like not even that bad. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing somebody.
Well, David O. Russell.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Well, but also there was a whole thing with A Clockwork Orange when they were filming the like the what was it, the Ludovici technique or whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about. And like one of the prongs like scratched Malcolm McDowell's eye, and he had to get like, yeah.
Like I think that there's this is like J.K. Simmons in Whiplash, where it's like, do the ends justify the means? And I just think that, like, I don't think Kubrick could continue. I don't think somebody like Kubrick could exist in 2021.
Probably
and like,
not.
Tarantino.
Well, I mean, David Fincher is known for doing like 100 takes of a certain scene. So I think Stanley Kubrick could probably still get along in Hollywood today.
I guess that's a fair comparison.
I mean, probably like somewhat dialed back, but I think he'd still be able to like work like
Yeah, but
like mostly how he usually does.
Kubrick never made somebody wear a New York Yankees hat.
Oh.
But I think what works so well is because like and obviously there's people out there that is just like don't like Tom Cruise, think he's just like he's this action star, but like this is one of those films that like shows he's a really talented actor.
Mm-hmm.
And Kubrick pushes him and Nicole Kidman real far in this film, and you
actually,
can feel it.
And like with Tom Cruise, wasn't this the same year as Magnolia?
Yep, 1999.
He was. It was released the same year. Paul Thomas Anderson came to set and hired Tom Cruise because of his performance in Eyes Wide Shut. So they released the same year because this had a year of post production. So,
true.
But this is a big year for Tom Cruise.
And on that note, I think I haven't seen Magnolia yet, but this is my favorite Tom Cruise performance. Like I've seen many more of his action movies. I haven't seen Jerry Maguire or like
Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen it either, but I've heard he's amazing in it.
I've seen it.
He's so stinking good in this movie, and like I don't know, it's crazy how good he is.
It really plays off his charm and his charisma, because like he's supposed to be that doctor, and Vinny, I'll let you say what you're going to say, because what I'm going to say kind of leads into the opening scene of the film. So what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to add to what Aaron was saying about, how he's so good in this movie, and like especially the scene near the end where he walks in and sees the mask on the pillow, and he just like breaks down and telling Alice, I'll tell you everything, and like it was like that was definitely like for me like one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah, to me it's that moment, and then it's anytime they cut back from him seeing Nicole Kidman's fantasy. Like anytime that it cuts back to him in like the present day, like thinking about his wife's, thought of an affair, like, and how it just like eats at him, and you can see him like get progressively like more upset throughout the movie.
And like the cut after he's like, I'm gonna tell you everything, and then it cuts to Nicole Kidman, and she looks like she's been up for like 5 days and completely just like destroyed.
Maybe this is a good time to talk about this now, because my biggest gripe with this movie is it feels like this was a 4-hour film that then Kubrick was like, well, this doesn't need to be 4 hours and let's just cut it, but then didn't worry about transitions, because like a moment like that with that stark contrast I think worked really well. But a lot of the stuff at the beginning, like it's just straight cuts, they just spliced two ends of film together, and there was no like musical transition or any sort of subtlety to it at all. And like, I mean, I guess nothing about this movie is really subtle, but it was just like, it really felt like they just cut a lot of the first bit and didn't worry about transitions. And I think there was editing techniques back in the day where you had to do everything manually was significantly more time consuming and difficult. So like, I'm not trying to like be too much of a hard ass on it. I'm just trying to say like, I think that it was definitely a knock for me.
So what you're saying is you're down for the 4-hour version of this movie?
Look, honestly, yes, because this was a long movie, 2.5 hours, 2:38, I think. And I was engaged the whole time with it. And like, that's why I landed and loved it, is because I don't understand yet what I think this movie, like why this movie exists. But I was engaged the whole time. And I think that this could be an all-timer for me if I can understand why this movie exists. But for now, it's not quite on my favorites of all time, but I really do love it.
And going back to with Tom Cruise and really playing off his charisma, because like we're dropped right off into this party at the beginning of the film, and it's playing off of, you have Alice with this older gentleman who's coming on real strong, and they start dancing and stuff like that, and then you have Bill with these two models. So question, if you didn't have a thing that happened upstairs, would something have happened? with those models?
I mean, before he was called away, but by that butler. I mean, I don't know. Like, it seemed like he did want to go with them, but it also seemed like he would like kind of like shrug them off, like he would be tempted by them, but he would also be thinking, I'm married, I have a wife. Like, I think he would probably save himself at like the last minute, like before things went too far.
It's interesting because like he puts up a fight. He's like, "Oh, I have my wife," and the whole time he's like grinning at them and stuff like that. I'm like, this guy's totally gonna go away with these two women right now. Where would it end up? I don't know, but he's totally going away with them somewhere, especially because like he looks over and sees his wife with the older gentleman. There's a lot of distrust in this relationship. This is not a very healthy relationship from the start.
But what I'm thinking about, like, it seems like every woman that he interacts with in the movie is is automatic, like they're automatically enamored by him. So this is probably something he's used to. So like, even though he had the chance to be with not one but two models, I mean, I still think he would be in that mindset, like, oh, this happens to me. This happens to me every day. I'm just gonna charm them for a bit, and then just go back to my wife. I don't think he would have let things go too far.
I see gears turning.
What's that?
Frank, what were you gonna say?
Like, I don't think he would have done anything with him either, because later on in the movie he has some chances and he still doesn't do anything. I think it's more of kind of like the Joker's analogy of just a dog trying to catch a car. Doesn't really know what he's gonna do.
It's an interesting point because like the closest he does get is
with Domino.
Yeah, and it's like he gets that phone call. If he didn't get that phone call, and that's one of the things that Kubrick does so well in this film, is keeps teasing you with like, but Woody. And I feel like that helps build the tension in this film, because it really is one long drawn out kind of like, this whole entire crazy one night journey thing that he winds up going on is pushed because he gets jealous about his wife having this fantasy about this sailor guy. And it's like, she didn't really do it, but in his mind, he can't get it out of his head. And it's like,
we're going to have to come back to this because I've got some thoughts on that argument.
Well, I think we can have it right now with the idea, because like, it's like,
so I think just to kind of wrap up that last part, I think the movie is teasing that Tom Cruise, it kind of like Frank said, is his character is wanting the chase, but not necessarily. He's like a dog that gets a toy, but once he gets that toy, he doesn't play with it, just kind of chases it around
all the time.
Exactly, right. Or he gets something new, finally catches it, and then just leaves it alone. So I feel like that's kind of what he's going for, because we mentioned the closest he gets is Domino, but he makes a move on Domino's roommate the next day, and she stops him because she says she's HIV positive, which, like, good for her for telling him.
She wasn't. She wasn't HIV positive. Domino was.
Domino was. Okay, got it.
Trying to remember, because yes, there's some sexual tension going on there between him and the roommate.
He has her hands in her shirt.
Yeah, like, well, I guess more than sexual tension.
Yeah,
it's like
there's definitely foreplay going on.
Yeah, and
for lumps, he is a doctor, sir.
Actually, that was one of my favorite things that he's like to his wife, and he's just like, I'm a doctor. This is part of my job. I don't think of anything besides this. And I'm like, but do you?
Actually, you know what? Speaking of the scene between uh, what's Tom Cruise's character's name?
Bill.
Bill?
Which, by the way,
Bill.
Tom Cruise does not look like a Bill. He would go by William.
So like, yeah, the scene between William and Domino's roommate, like what? Well, before that, like like as I said, the pacing of this movie is very deliberate. Like, and this isn't a complaint. I'm just saying, the pacing is deliberate. Scenes are drawn out. And because of the length, it feels like this movie takes place over a longer time frame than it does. So that's why when Bill is interacting with Domino's roommate, and the roommate says, you were the guy that Domino was with last night. I was thinking, wait, he was with Domino last night, and he went to the party right after he was with Domino. So all of this all of that happened in one night, and just like my sense of timing was just thrown for a loop, because you have all of these major events happening over the course of just a couple of days of Bill and Alice's life, and then just at the end, when Bill just breaks down, it's like, like this wasn't just like a long series of events that eventually crushed him. This was just a couple of days that really put him through that ringer. So Kubrick's use of timing in this movie was just like it was great in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It made it feel like we were kind of just watching him the whole time, because it is a lengthy movie, and so Kubrick's not afraid to let long scenes draw out. He's not afraid to let scenes of walking, draw out to help us process as each character is processing. So, yeah, he did a great job with that. Going back to that argument, Shane, I think he has a right to be angry with Nicole Kidman, but I am definitely not defending him in that argument. Because he is completely arrogant and a jerk and self-contradictory and misogynist and sexist and like a lot of bad things. But he does have a right to be angry, because it's not the fact that she fantasized about somebody else. And there was an argument that Nicole Kidman made. By the way, I have so many flaws with her argument, because she makes a point about saying like, you're saying it's better, it's okay for you because, or it's okay for you because, or it's not okay for me to fantasize about people because like we're married. And it's like, yeah, the point about marriage is that you're choosing to subdue your urges, except for with one person. So like, I think that there is definitely, I'm a minister, so I believe in what the Bible says, and that means that, I believe what Jesus says, which means he says some things about adultery and how even if you look at another person lustfully, then you're committing a sin. But it's like, but the point of marriage is to say that like you're choosing to say yes to your spouse instead. Yeah. Also really weird, you get a minister on for Eyes Wide Shut, but like,
I was honestly, Aaron, I was really interested to hear what your thoughts were going to be watching this movie. Honestly, it's an interesting thing, because like, how often do people like generally have open conversations about sex and stuff like that?
Not enough.
And like, legitimately, this film is just about sexual urges, and whether it's from Nicole Kidman's perspective with her high AF, I'm trying to throw all this in, and like, I think that the biggest thing that is like her being completely out of it and just throwing that in his face. Like, she was bringing that up to hurt him.
Yes.
And
so that's why he has a right to be angry, is because he's right. She is trying to pick an argument with him. But at the moment where she crosses a line and I no longer want to root for her is, I don't want to root for either of them, by the way. It's not, I'm changing sides and want to root for Tom Cruise. I don't want to root for either of them. But it's the moment where she talks about wanting to have the affair, and again, wanting to have an affair is something different. But what she says, I would give everything, including you, our 7-year-old daughter, and all this life that we've built for one night with this guy. It's like that is the point where you are crossing the line. You are just trying to personally hurt this guy. There is no sense to this argument anymore, and both of them have said things to this point that I don't. It's weird because I almost don't believe that these are actual people with actual conflict. And that kind of drew me out of the movie, because I think that people are in general rational, but can be very irrational. But I feel like there was no line of logic I could see for either character that was consistent to make me feel like these were actual people.
Well, this is what happens when you have rich white people problems.
Yeah, and look, I'm white, but I ain't rich. Like,
but
that fight
you know,
was.
ahead,
My
Frank.
issue with that fight is because she legitimately gets mad at him because he trusts her to not cheat.
like if you guys are looking for like an example of like marriage partners, like just watch this and like everything opposite of this movie.
But now you know what? Like Alice, when Alice says that she would give everything up just for one night with that sea captain or whatever. That whole one night mentality, like in a way, like doesn't that kind of maybe saves Tom Cruise from like Tom Cruise's character in the end, because when because like at the end, like it seems like, you know, he's obviously worried that she's gonna leave him after everything he's done, but then she says, oh, you know, like I'm paraphrasing, she says, you know we can't let one night we can't let one night of like indiscretion ruin what we have. So like that whole mindset of like just one night determining everything, like it kind of saves him, because she's in that mindset to forgive him. I mean, I don't know if I'm
I mean, number one, yes, you absolutely can. When people break into your house and leave things in your bed, you absolutely can define your marriage by one night when there are serious conflict. But yeah, that's the message of the movie that I understand. Because of exactly what you said, the correlation between her willing to give up one night, which would nix the rest of the relationship, and by the end, it kind of changes to her saying, "You can't let one night define, or rule over 9 years." And like, I have problems with that logic. Not even in a marital context, but.
Well, I mean, I wasn't really taking a side. I was just trying to explain like what I was thinking, like, but
sure.
like connecting those two scenes.
I'm trying to say, like, give Kubrick's perspective. I think his message just is to say that one night does not equal the accumulation of 9 years of marriage plus, and having a daughter and all that. And it's like I have serious problems with that line of thinking. And also, there's a way easier story to tell this movie. Or to tell than this movie.
Well, I don't think Kubrick was ever going to take the easy way out of telling any story.
And thank God he doesn't, because filmmaking is better because Kubrick exists.
Because this whole film is just a journey of temptation. And, like, it's all that crux of, like, in some way, Bill thinks because his wife had this fantasy, threw it in his face, he's like, I'm going to get back at her. I'm going to go out tonight. I'm going to do something. Mm-hmm. And it's such a strange journey of weird thing after weird thing. And like, it's just because it's very dreamlike, this whole entire film, because it doesn't feel like this is the real world in many ways until he wakes up the next day. And then you see his journey from like a sobered like reality. Because, like, the first night, it's just, like, he's going down the street. He has this group of guys tackle him, calling him very derogatory terms for a gay man. And just, like, what's wrong with these guys? Just, like, out of nowhere. And then, he sees Domino and he's about to do this thing, and then he's stopped by that phone call from his wife, and then the weird stuff that occurred at that costume store. And that was one of the I think that's legitimately one of the strangest scenes in a Kubrick film. Obviously, it's not on like furry level of like that really strange shot from The Shining, but like,
And cut.
yeah, there's just something so strange about like, and was it Lily Sobieski? It's just like, how old do you think she was in this movie? Like, and she has those two older Asian guys with her, and I'm just like, what's going on here? And obviously her dad's going like, what's going on here?
But and then he has that really weird change of heart like later on.
Well, and that was the weirdest thing when he goes back the next day. But like here, so quick side note. Who's down for the spin-off of this, of the crazy rich people underworld that makes up this New York City? Because like
Yeah.
This is like, I feel like this version of New York City has like the same level of mythology of like John Wick level New York City, except instead of like assassins and stuff like that, there's just weird sex things going on all over the place. Because like, what's with this crazy Illuminati like group of rich people at this crazy mansion party that like breaks into your house and leaves creepy masks on the pillow next to your sleeping wife, and it's like gonna send a message.
Talking about the scene at the mansion, like and also to go back to Kubrick's use of music. I love how in this scene, with everyone's wearing masks, so like no one knows who anyone is, and there's one part of that whole sequence when Tom Cruise, it's when he's walking around like by himself, and like in the background, I mean, and then you can hear like the instrumental. You can hear the instrumental version of Frank Sinatra's "Strangers in the Night."
Mm-hmm.
So, you guys know that song, right?
Yeah.
I know the song.
Okay, yeah.
I never noticed that before.
Yeah, no, like I just like going off of Kubrick's use of music, I just thought like it was a clever touch to use that song like within.
You see, I
within
didn't
that
notice
scene.
because we didn't get any doobie doobie doo.
Oh,
Doobie
okay.
doo. See, if all the people behind the mask started saying doobie doobie doo at one point, then I 100% would have gotten what song they were referencing. But that's an inch, because like nothing about a Kubrick film is done by accident. Like nothing. So, and that scene, which obviously has been referenced so many times. I remember when the Lovebirds with Kumail and Issa Rae, that trailer came out, and they're like, this is some Handmaid's Tale bullshit. I'm like, this is some Eyes Wide Shut bullshit. This is well before that, at least from like a film perspective. I know Handmaid's Tale is like an older book, but like, I'm just like, you're stealing references.
And then in the scene at the mansion, like the second woman that comes up to him, like I don't like there's really no ambiguity to that, right? But like that was the woman he saved in the bathtub, right? Or not the bath
in the bathroom.
What? Yeah, in the bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah, they do confirm that later in the scene where there's a pool table with the guy. They do confirm that it was the same woman that he saved, which I think is why, and kind of full circle in the same way Kubrick does a Clockwork Orange, why she chooses to save him out of that situation, why she chooses to sacrifice herself, because he saved her.
No, like the woman that saves him is someone different. I'm talking about like when he's walking around by himself, and then that other woman comes in from the back, and she says, "Oh, are you enjoying yourself?" And that's the woman he saved in the bathroom, because she has the red hair that the woman who overdosed did. The woman who saves him has blonde hair.
Mm.
I'm at the party. Gotcha.
Frank, you had your hand up.
think-
What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just doing some fact checking. And
Uh-huh.
Lily Sobieski was born in 1983. So movie came out in 99, year post at most. She was
And over a year of
15.
shooting. Like she was a teenager.
Yeah.
Nice and creepy.
Yeah, but I mean, let's remember this is also the director from Lolita, so
Yep.
yeah.
Which that was that's always a weird watch. And just like I feel many kinds of ways watching that movie. And that was a hard, because like that episode I was flying solo because nobody volunteered to be on that episode. And I'm just like, oh, how do I go about talking about this movie? Peter Sellers is really funny. Let's talk about that.
You mentioned a couple minutes ago about like the movie. This is where we all started from. That it's the movie. How badly do you want to see the movie that like stars this underground crime organization? I think the movie that I'm most interested in. First of all, let's make it a miniseries, and let's have this story take place from Alice's perspective. Let's have this pilot episode culminate into where she wakes up in the bed with the mask next to him and her husband crying and saying, "I'll tell you everything." Like, isn't that the best stinger you could ever have for a pilot episode? And then like episode 2, he gets to tell his journey of the first night, and episode 3 he gets to tell his journey of the second night, and we get to see Alice processing all this. And then like another, like, I don't think this is a negative I have for the movie, but like it is somewhat infuriating, is that there is no finality to the movie. Like I think that we are confirming that this wasn't a dream, that all this actually happened when the mask appeared on the bed, because the guy in the pool hall tries to talk him down and be like, what if it was all a dream and all that? But like people broke into his apartment, like almost like a threat. And we get the feeling that if he doesn't pursue questions that he's not gonna like be harmed, but still, like, how do you live with you, your husband, and your 7-year-old child with this potentially constantly looming threat because of things you knew? And after that pool hall conversation, you can put some pieces together. Tom Cruise knows way more than he should. Like that as a like 8-episode, 6-episode miniseries, something like that, is I think the best version of this story.
I feel like you could take this film, and so like obviously you could take this film on a surface level for what like all the exposition in that scene. And quick side note, I'm a huge fan of Sidney Pollack, and I love him in this film, and he is such a great presence. And like that scene in his billiard room with everything, and like you could dissect that scene so much, because you could think about like how much of what he's saying is true. Do you think his friend made it out alive? Do you think he's ever going to hear from that guy again? Or do you take everything Sidney Pollack's character says at what his word is? And there is something powerful and sinister behind that whole entire thing. And it's just like, that gives off so many, like, this dude's into some dark stuff. He's into some messed up stuff. And I'm like going off to your point, Aaron's like, I don't know how comfortable I would feel as Tom Cruise moving forward after this movie.
I think that everything that Sidney Pollack says, he believes is true. I think he is trying to give the most likely explanation of what he believes to be true, but because he's not on the governing board, I'm like, there are things he's just like, oh yeah, they just flew him back to Seattle. I think he really believes they flew the piano player back to Seattle, but I don't think that's what actually happened. I think he really believes that because this girl has a history with drug overdosing, including the night before, that it was just bound to happen. But I don't think that was an accident. But I think he believes it was an accident.
It's interesting because like on our last episode of the Development Hell podcast, and Vinny's part of my movie club, and we were talking about Pan's Labyrinth, and I'm like, I just threw something out there. I'm like, but what if you took the film in this way? I feel like this movie is so ripe for that, to be like, but what if there's something much more sinister going on here? Because like, how can't you have that in the back of your head the second he walks in and finds that mask on his pillow? Like, there's some dark mafia stuff going on here. But just my thoughts.
but what I was gonna say, what Aaron was saying about the events in the movie, about being dreams, like dreams versus reality. I mean, if you guys noticed on the end credits, this movie it's based on a novella called Dream Story.
That's an interesting thing because like so many of Kubrick's movies are based off of other works, and it's always the kind of thing where he's just like, yeah, I like this idea, but screw everything else. I'm making this my own kind of thing. I think it'd be interesting to read to see how similar it actually is. But going back to something, Aaron, that you brought up, because obviously you're trying to process like what this really is all about.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, at least to me, after watching this, like probably a good 5 times at this point, it really is like there's a fracture in this marriage. And I think Tom Cruise has to find his trust in his marriage again. And he goes on this chosen journey of temptation because he's legitimately putting himself into a lot of tempting situations.
Mm-hmm.
And like the whole entire mansion thing, he's like, that sounds interesting. I want to go to this thing. And like he's just driving so much off of impulse that like he's not thinking of like, why would you just show up to some secret society party out of nowhere and just think that showing up there is going to be perfectly fine? And I feel like when it really comes back to them, when they come back to the department store at the end and it's that final line, I feel like this film's really about him going on the journey that he needs to go on to realize why he loves his wife and why he wants to fix his marriage. Because there's obviously a lot of distrust from the very start of the movie. And I feel like that party at the beginning sets that up because like just looking across the room, he sees her with this other dude, no trust there. She sees him with these 2 young women, no trust there. Because like legitimately, he didn't go with them. Obviously, he went and was helping out Cindy Pollock's character, but like she really believes that he went off with those 2 models and was like fooling around. And then it just became that escalation of like, well, if you go around sleeping around, and then she's tempted to tell that whole story and rub it in his face. And he's like, well, you're going to do that to me. I'm going to go sleep around with somebody tonight. And like goes off and does this crazy, strange thing. And I feel like in the end, it's all about trying to push away that temptation and finding your way back to like who you are deep down and who you're with and who you love. But there's always that temptation. And I think Kubrick takes so much time looking at humanity in all of his films and looking at the very darkest aspects of humanity. And I feel like this film, it's like, you're going to put yourself into those tempting situations because that's just human nature. But are you going to act on it? And the tension that Kubrick builds, because so many of those tempting situations don't end with a very active decision by Bill to be like, no, I'm shunning this away.
Well, except for that scene when he does that late night house call, and the daughter
Or like throws herself at him.
Yeah, and then he says, no, we can't be doing this.
And that's an interesting thing too, because is that situation different than most of the other situations? Because he didn't actively put himself into a tempting situation in that situation. The temptation was coming from her end. And like, does he really have like this attraction to that particular woman? But like, he goes out of his way and's like, yeah, I'm gonna go home with this sex worker. Yeah, I'm gonna go to this
Him.
Hmm?
On the street. He didn't approach her.
Yeah, but he's just like, I'm kind of about this. Like, he was just walking around like he was up to no good at that point.
For a walk.
I feel like at some level at that point, he was definitely looking for something. And she just
saying he was asking for it. Wow. Wow.
I'm
Really?
such a terrible person. Tom Cruise was not asking for it. I'm sorry, Tom Cruise. But like, I do feel like that situation at the beginning, it's an interesting scene too, because like, why doesn't he accept that temptation? But like, I felt like that was one of the ones where he was least looking out for it. Because like, obviously he's all about like, this is a strange, mysterious party. I'm going to show up to this party. And then he's just like walking around looking at like Kubrick long tracking shots of how many naked people he could possibly fit into one scene in a movie. But I don't know. I feel like, and that is an interesting scene to think about too, because that it's an interesting challenge to what happened in the scene when he's talking to Alice, when she confronts him about how it's like, oh, you have all these women like coming into your office, and he's like, I'm a professional. And then what's the first thing that happens when he goes out that night? He shows up and like this daughter of one of his patients is all like, but I love you. And then the poor guy from Criminal Minds just rolls up and he just like has no idea what the hell's going on.
Actually, like, did one interesting thing I noticed about that scene was how they made him up to they made him up to look somewhat like Tom Cruise, and then the way they shot him entering was from the other side of the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way it's framed when Tom Cruise walks in, like the door is on the left, so he walks in from the left on the scene. When the husband walks in, the camera is on the other side, the door is on the right, so he enters in from the right. So I don't know if there's like a deeper meaning behind that, but
there's always a deeper meaning in a Kubrick film.
Look, I'm pretty sure that this movie is like 7 or 8 different things, and all 7 of them are valid. And like, I feel so out of my depth right now, which is why I've just been kind of like, I'm just like, I really should have watched this movie before, 2 hours ago.
I think Kubrick one night, he just wanted to be like, everyone respects me. I'm well decorated. You know what? Let's see what they think about a 2.5-hour joke movie. I think he did this as a just troll everybody. Like, he's like, I'm gonna make a movie that's just about a guy just trying to get laid. Anyone else will make a 90-minute comedy. He goes like full send on it, gives it his all, spends 400 days making this movie, and he did it just to get a joke.
I mean, Frank, do you know that this movie was actually originally written as a comedy? Like, were you aware that was reality? Like, this movie was written for like 2 female leads, and then as the script progressed, they wound up like actually like changing actors, and the more they change actors, the more they turned it into like a serious movie.
Comedy.
Like, this is still darkly funny in some shape or form. There's always something darkly weird and funny about Kubrick films, but like, that's interesting that this film morphed into that.
I don't know how you make this movie a comedy. Like, it clearly had to have been a completely different script by the time it started and the time it finished. But like, anything involving like the danger here and like the the orgy scene and the whole like, I don't know, like, I mean, I guess you give it to the writers of The
They do an
Simpsons and they
orgy.
can do whatever they want, but
It's, and that's the thing too, because like I just feel like at some point it's like Kubrick had spent so much time of his career making films with like these deep Freudian kinds of like undertones and all kinds of like eroticism underneath the surface and stuff like that. And then he's just like, it's time to go overt. And just like, just gonna let this all hang out there. And there's still so many layers to unpack about this movie, because it's just like, legitimately, like, what is this going for? Why? It's like, what is really the significance of this journey that Bill has to go on? And it definitely feels like, and it's funny because that's one of the reasons why my fiance Jess hates Kubrick in many ways, is because like she's a psych person and is not a fan of Freud, and like everything about Kubrick movies have these like deep-seated Freudian, like all these deep urges of the id and everything kind of, and legitimately what this is, like Bill's just following that id all night. And it's just like, is he gonna find himself back in check kind of thing? And it's so interesting because like it's so well shot, the acting's so great, the journey is such a strange thing, and it's like these scenes are so long and drawn out, yet this never feels like almost a 3-hour movie. And there's something so strange about this film and why it works. And it's such an interesting thing that this turned out to be his last film, because he had other things he was working on, because like, you know, artificial intelligence got picked up by Steven Spielberg.
yeah,
I still would have loved to see an AI movie.
Yeah,
Stanley Kubrick.
Same here.
And it's just
Same
like,
here.
it's like maybe if you cut off the aliens at the end of it, and they're just like, that, this is the Kubrick cut. This is where he would have stopped the movie. But like, I don't know. And I guess in terms of like timing wise and everything, if you're really taking a step back, it's like, do any of you have any like main thoughts that you wanted to bring up about this film, or some kind of conclusions you want to try to make about the film?
You know, I was just thinking like what I was just thinking about like how when you go like from scene to scene with the movie, I don't know why he would do this, like maybe just as a nod to like his previous movies, but there are some things that do kind of like that do call back to not all, but some of his earlier movies, like you know, as we said, the scene with Lily Sobieski, you know that makes you think of Lolita, the scene where he's walking down the street and he's accosted by that gang that they're like Alex and his gang from A Clockwork Orange, and the scene and the scene at the mansion. Like, can't you like you can imagine something like that happening at the Overlook Hotel? Like,
oh my God,
can't you?
That's how that 1921 New Year's party ended. Just turned into a giant orgy.
All right, guys, I think we're on to something. What if Eyes Wide Shut is a sequel
to all of those movies?
We have proven
Kubrick
that
universe.
Everything is in the Kubrick universe, and it all collides in Eyes Wide Shut.
But now it's at the very end, it's missing a guy riding in on a bomb.
Yep.
And then we don't have to worry about the shadowy organization anymore because, boom.
Because instead we're worrying about nuclear explosions and the mine shaft gap. And
another connection to another one of his movies. Going back to what Alex said about how like after Tom Cruise says to Alice, I'll tell you everything, and then it just cuts to the next morning, like a significant cut in time between two segments of time like that. It's like in 2001 with the bone being thrown up into the air and then cutting right away to thousands and thousands of years later, like of people in space. Just like significant cuts in time like that. And I know it's probably it's a huge stretch, but it's just something that I'm
actually what you just proved here is that Stanley Kubrick actually has a lot more in common with Mel Brooks. And it's like you get towards the end of your career and you just play your greatest hits. Because like seriously, watch Spaceballs, especially Robin Hood Men in Tights, because legitimately it's just all the same jokes from all of his other movies. But like and that's the thing, because it's like obviously there's a lot of hallmarks, and like some of those feel like the editing, I think, in Kubrick films in general is either so profound, amazing cuts, or it's just like he really knows how to nail an ending. Whereas like in this movie, it's like, we got to go home and then credits roll. And it's just that kind of sexual energy, like at the end of Clockwork Orange, where it's just like him having that fantasy like, oh, I was cured all right. And it's just like, it's that same kind of energy.
Oh, actually, you know what? With eyes wide shut, what if they did like a simultaneous what if they did like a movie that's a remake to both Eyes Wide Shut and This Is 40 with Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann?
You would have my money at this point.
No, because you know what? Judd Apatow would direct it. He's used to directing movies that are almost 2.5 hours long. So,
tell you what I was thinking. This is kind of my last, I think, thing that I have to say, at least at this moment in time. Talk to me again in a month, and maybe we have more. But it's just a joke. But when we were talking about how this was originally written as a comedy, then Shane was talking about how all this was just like really overse and like just in your face, and Kubrick just decided to go for it the whole time. And you see all these Freudian things, and all that. And my thought was just like, all right, I think I know how we make this movie a comedy. The exact same movie, except you scrap the main character entirely and you replace him with Polka Dot Man from the Suicide Squad. That orgy scene would be so awkward.
oh
no. Because you know who he's replacing all of them with. Oh my. And if you haven't watched the Suicide Squad yet, then you better go watch it just so that you can get that joke. So
Hayes. Well, it's already gone now.
It's Frank, do you have any thoughts to throw in here at the end of our conversation?
29, Stanley probably knew that everyone is going to overanalyze every movie he makes until the end of time. We're 22 years later, and we're talking about this movie for the past 2 hours now. What if he just made it to send his wife a message of going, hey, we need to fuck more? Like, that's it. Like, he hadn't fucked his wife in like 10 years, so he went, fuck it, I'll make this movie. Maybe she'll get the goddamn hint.
You know what? That's it. 100%. That is what this movie was all about.
That's all.
But being the troll that he is, he was like, well,
cast Tom Cruise as himself.
That's the message, but I'm going to make people think it was something so different.
Oh. I mean, you hire a painter to like paint your wall. He's gonna do his job.
Look,
That's all
Frank,
he
you
did.
might be onto something because Kubrick died 4 days after submitting this cut of the film, which he considers to be the final cut.
Tinfoil hat.
And he was married at the time, and he died from natural causes. Maybe you're right.
Tinfoil hat right now,
Maybe
though.
she got the hint, and then that caused him to die of natural causes.
He went out happy.
He did.
Put the movie out saying, "Oh yeah," before he died, he gave us this cut. I'm not sure if this was his actual like final cut because, like you said, there's still a couple of rough transitions in the beginning there. So maybe this is his final cut, but it's not what was supposed to be.
Yeah, supposedly this was his final cut, but it didn't include like a lot of the score and all that. So he did not see the end product and didn't have a plan of that. But like this, at least in terms of visually, this was the final.
Oh, he definitely picked that creepy music in the mansion, though.
Yeah, I think they were
Like,
working on the score.
Nobody else would have picked that.
Yeah.
So, and music in Kubrick films, they've taught that at Rider. I wish I took Stephen Allen's course for that. That would have been the best class I would have taken at Rider. Would have traded all of my accounting courses just so that I could have taken that one. So if you haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut, why'd you sit here and listen to us talk about it in this much depth? But hopefully you watch it, you come back and you listen to all of our thoughts and get some good laughs, because I haven't cried like that in a while. So thank you, Frank. Now, to wrap things up here on Welcome to the Wasteland, we always like to leave things with some recommendations to hopefully fill up your watch list, because, I think my watch list of like movies recommended to me is up to like 100. So, you always need more movies, right?
It's getting low, man. Mine's like 300.
Well, to be honest, I do get recommended more movies. It's just I've seen them.
But you watch 10 times as many movies as I do.
That's the tricky thing when I'm like, hey, send me some recommendations. And I'm like, oh, crap. Like maybe 1 out of 20 of these I haven't actually seen at this point. But anyway, Frank, what's a movie you would like to recommend to all the lovely folks that sat through this whole entire episode?
I would like to recommend Bo Burnham's Inside. No. Actually, I'm going to recommend Free Guy. I highly recommend that movie. Have you seen it yet?
Yep, I got to go see it at the drive-in a couple weeks ago, and that's honestly, and I know 100% why it's doing so well at the box office, is we needed this kind of movie right now. Something that you could just go have some fun. It's stupid. It's fun. And it's just, it has a lot of heart, way more than I expected out of it. Yeah. And Ryan Reynolds is doing his thing. Taika Waititi's being.
Yeah, Chris Evans is doing his thing.
Oh, come on. Don't ruin that.
Oh, no.
What did I ruin?
Well, to be fair, Ryan Reynolds ruined all of those cameos when he made that post about everyone. But the best part was when he tweeted about why Chris Hemsworth didn't show up in it and blamed Chris Evans for saying that he wasn't in fighting shape. Which the irony of that is, like, if you look at him right now, looks like he eats a human being on a daily basis. And then works it all out because he's got that Hulk Hogan body going on because he's playing Hulk Hogan in a movie.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. I recommend Free Guy because if you haven't seen it, you should. And then you can understand my shirt, which I am selling.
Shameless plugs.
Yep.
I'm not even wearing one of my Wasteland Reviewer t-shirts either. Could have all been shamelessly plugging. I'm still wearing my outfit from work today. So
I'm still at work, as you can tell.
Yes. I am obviously not at work because I don't have a giant wall of movies in my office at Rider University. So, Vinnie, what would you like to recommend to the lovely folks out there?
All right. Well, the movie I'm gonna recommend it's a Danish thriller from 2018 called The Guilty. It's directed
Yeah.
by it's it's directed by Gustav Moller. Basically, it's about a police officer who takes a call on the desk. Well, I don't have my glass. Oh, I don't have my glasses
Oh,
on.
it's The Guilty.
Oh, okay. I
It's
had a feeling that's
relevant.
no, I had a feeling that's what it was, but I couldn't quite see it. But anyway, it's about a police officer who takes a call at the station, and it's a call from a woman who has been kidnapped, and she's stuck inside the trunk of a car, and he tries to walk her through the situation, and to like giving her advice on what to do. And it's a great movie. It's only even though it's only 85 minutes, like you get your time's worth of thrills in this movie. And I'm not only bringing it up because it's a great movie. I'm also bringing it up because the remake directed by Antoine Fuqua is premiering next weekend at the Toronto Film Festival, and this one is gonna star Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's gonna get a limited release at that. And then I think like September 17th or something, but then a week later it's gonna start streaming on Netflix. And I'm hoping they don't do like a typical American remake thing, and just have like and just like have like an unnecessary crime thriller car chase in the final act. I really hope they stick to like the aesthetic of the original, but at the same time, add something new to it, but doesn't sacrifice what made the original so great.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I'm with it being Anton Fuqua and it being an American remake, I'm like 100% sure they're gonna have like a car explosion at the end of the movie. But we'll have to find out when either you see it in theaters or it drops on Netflix. But yes, 100%. Obviously, I own it. I like it enough to own it. So there you go. Aaron, what would you like to recommend to the lovely people out there?
Yeah, so as we're recording this is the official opening day for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So naturally, I watched Cruella, and I haven't seen Shang-Chi yet, so I'm not necessarily saying it's bad or anything. I watched Cruella because it's finally free on Disney Plus, and it is worth all the hype. Emma Stone is excellent; she's really terrific. This story managed to be interesting in a way and felt fresh and felt new. Even though I kind of knew where the story was going the whole time, I thought they did it in a really great way. I'm excited to see potentially more. I think it's I mean I think they wanted to do a sequel, but now with the whole Premier Access Emma Stone suing Disney thing, I'm not super
She's not
positive.
doing.
It officially is moving forward. So I
Okay.
think she backed down.
Yeah, she's starting doing.
Okay.
She's not suing.
It's
Only
probably
an idiot would sue Disney.
they probably gave her a contract that was, we're gonna pay you way too much than we should have to and with Cruella 2. And that's how we'll settle that. That's probably what's going on. Anyway, I know she initially did say she was going to sue, but she must have backed down then. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
did.
I really, really, really love Cruella, and best soundtrack of the year so far. Like, really incredible soundtrack. Lots and lots to love about this movie. I wish I could have seen it earlier, but I just was busy when it hit theaters, and I wasn't going to pay $30 for a movie, a month after it came out. So. If I'd have done it like opening day, maybe, but like anyway, it's finally free on Disney Plus. It is worth all the hype.
As somebody who did spend the $29.99 opening weekend to watch it at home, I did really enjoy it. So
yeah,
I did the same thing with Jungle Cruise. Did the same. I had to end up doing the same thing with Black Widow too.
I have
and
a good rock joke I shouldn't tell right now.
And I did it for Mulan last year. So
I'm sorry.
I honestly liked it a lot more than most people.
Yeah,
so, but like, did I like it $30? that's a hard thing to say. Like, I like this movie enough that I spent $30 to watch it at home on. But, you know, at least for me, I'm always watching them with Jess. So at least it's like $15 for me and 15 for her. So I have a couple of ones that I wanted to throw out here. This is actually a recommendation from John from SiftPop, because I know he's a big Brian De Palma fan, and I got around to watching Blowout with John.
Yeah, buddy.
That is a great movie, and that was one of the most impressive technical achievements I've seen in a long time. And this was still when, like, this was pre-John Travolta, like 2 years before Staying Alive completely destroyed his career in the 80s. So, like, and he was a great actor. And, John Lithgow was so creepy and unnerving in it. And, like, Brian De Palma was just flexing this whole entire movie. And it was so great.
And an ending you will never forget.
Yep. A new release that I wanted to throw out there, it's called Sweet Thing. And this is a little black and white film, and it's a story about two young kids whose home life is really messed up. And they wind up going on the road with this other kid and trying to find a new life on the road for themselves. And it's this coming of age kind of road trip movie. And it deals with some heavy stuff, like an alcoholic father, an absent and abusive mother. And it was a really moving film. So this was like, I rented it on, you could rent it for $3.99 on Prime right now. So for all of you that check out VOD. And then I felt like I needed to bring this one up because I got so excited that I talked about this the other day. So I was interviewing Matt Lawson, also one of the newer writers for SiftPop, for Lost in the Wasteland, and he brought up Anna and the Apocalypse. Mm-hmm. And it made me so happy because not enough people saw Anna the Apocalypse, because you take a Christmas movie that's also a musical.
That's not a Christmas movie.
Wait, what's it called? Anna and the Apocalypse?
Yes.
Okay.
It's set at Christmas. It's a musical with zombies. And definitely there's a couple of songs that are like burned into my brain forever. And
so is it a Christmas movie or a Halloween movie? I mean, if it has zombies in it, it could be a Halloween movie. Like, what is it?
That's why you gotta watch it at Thanksgiving and Par the Whole. So you watch it at both. Like, that's what you do.
Just like Nightmare Before Christmas. You watch it every day from October to December.
But actually, on that subject, then what is Krampus? Christmas or Halloween? Like, what?
Yes.
It's like...
I feel like, because how many actual Thanksgiving movies are out there besides Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Like, I think you just got to take any movie that's both of them, Par the Whole, and just watch it on Thanksgiving instead.
I watch that movie every year on Thanksgiving.
Oh, I love Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But Anna and the Apocalypse has some great songs, some just fun characters, fun zombies. It's British. It's got everything. So there you go. And it came out in theaters in 2018. And I was very excited. But those are all my recommendations. But this was a very interesting and fun way to wrap up my trek down Stanley Kubrick's filmography. And now I'll be stuck in Scorsese land until June. So here we go.
It only gets good around The Departed.
There we go. Vinny, how do you feel about that? Couldn't even say anything. Because right now, I got
guys, keep in mind Frank's on his third drink.
As of right now, I got Vinny coming off Raging Bull, and if either of you two want to talk some Scorsese, we'll chat when after we stop recording. But Frank, Vinny, Aaron, thank you all for coming on. It would only have been perfect if we could have fit Robert on here. Now realizing that it was his birthday today, and also Frank's birthday, right?
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Frank, and happy birthday, Robert.
R.I.P. Robert. R.I.P.
He's not dead, Frank.
Oh, what?
Well, I hope you all had fun. And I hope all of you out there had fun. And thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.